Hello, it is Sunday, November 10th, 2024. God bless you wherever you may be, and welcome to Darkness is Falling, video number 364 in this series exposing the Jesuit Vatican shadow empire as the true cause of all revolutions, genocide, war, and deception for the last 500 years, and the one and only candidate for this fourth iron Roman beast system prescribed trampling and crushing the nations in the prophetic books of Daniel and Revelation. You'll find the links to William's website, darknessisfalling.com, and his video channel links and mine in the description box below. Hey there, William. How are you?
Hey, great, Joe. Had a bit of a gap since the last time we chatted.
A bit of a pause, but here we are again, and it's good to be back. Great to be back doing another video with you.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot has happened actually in the last month. What with the Trump re-election and all the circus and fiasco that's gone around that, plus all the weather warfare happening around the world. So a lot has actually been happening. There's
Yeah.
also a lot happening with the financial system and the real estate system that many people may not be aware of, but things are not looking good. So we are just slow. It's a slow mo again, like we've mentioned many times, and we're shuffling our way towards the edge.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are not feeling this yet. They're still comfortable. They still have money in the bank. That their house hasn't been knocked over by a hurricane or tornado, so they're still feeling comfortable, and they have a job as well. But things are deteriorating rapidly. Have you noticed this?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's interesting how that it's a slow mo, and at the same time that the Jesuits are just absolutely hammering the world with weather warfare with these storms, floods, fires. So it's a slow mo, but it's really not. It appears to be. So it's yeah, it's increasing dramatically with
Yeah,
this
yeah,
warfare.
we're living in a parallel reality, and a lot of people still don't really get this. They don't get it because life still seems fairly normal. But when you consider that the Jesuits have achieved their objective of vaccinating maybe as many as 90 to 95% of the world's population, it's over.
Yeah.
It's really over. We're just, excuse me, sidling our way towards the final installment, which I think will happen fairly quickly. It's all bad news, and yet we can rejoice because we have our hope in the Lord Jesus Christ, and we have eternal life. We have a lot to look forward to once this very dark period in human history is past. So, yeah,
Yeah. Well said.
yeah, flooding in France, Italy, Somalia, in Asia, huge storms. Everything's being blown over, knocked down, or burned up. It's just incredible. Of course, all the disasters that have happened in your country, in North Carolina, Florida, Texas. Apparently, there's another storm hitting Cuba right now as we talk. Another hurricane, which will
Yeah.
eventually make its way to the American mainland. Right.
Right. Yeah. And
So
don't forget China.
yes,
My goodness. Man.
disaster after disaster after disaster.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, the Chinese economy is winding down. A lot of European company, international companies have pulled out. A lot of people are now jobless. We've got the gender wars with the 4B movement, women shaving their hair off, saying that they're going to deny men access to their bodies. It's all nuts, Joe. It's
Yeah.
it's crazy politics, crazy gender wars, crazy weather warfare, all over the world. It's the whole world has gone nuts, and most people probably are mostly oblivious to it, unless they are really, really paying attention to alternative media. So
Yeah. Mhm.
crazy stuff happening. And also, having said that, I want to warn everybody listening, and I'm speaking particularly to Christians, and I think mostly to Christians, about running around online from channel to channel and wasting time looking for technical details about beast technologies that don't really matter anymore. Maybe, I don't know if you've noticed people doing this, but there is people running everywhere, sharing little intricate details of beast technologies. They're infatuated with how these technologies work.
Yeah.
And it's just a distraction, and it's not profitable. Now, we are all being poisoned, and there is no escape from this for anybody. Getting all caught up in the intricate details of how we're being poisoned or affected by radio waves, sound waves, light waves, and that kind of technology, it's a waste of time.
Mhm.
Knowing that we are being affected by all these things and who is behind it is really sufficient.
Right.
Chasing all the details is just a waste of time. And a lot of people are doing this. And I think a lot of Christians are doing this. It's I call it high-tech sensationalism. Now, as a Christian, and I believe I'm talking to mostly Christians here on this channel, I'm urging people, please don't waste your time with this high-tech sensationalism. This is a new Jesuit internet narrative being promoted on many channels,
Hmm.
consuming a lot of people's time. Now, multitudes of people are running to and fro, exactly as Daniel says, Daniel chapter 12, absorbed with gathering information that doesn't and can't change anything about our current reality. It is a distraction and deception, and it can no longer save anyone. This is the important point. It can no longer save anyone. That time has come and gone, people. If you're listening to this, listen up. The time to have been warning everyone was between 2020 and 2023.
Yeah.
After that, most people had been tested and injected, and many multiple times, and it's over effectively. Now, new information about what is in the beast technologies is of absolutely no help to people who have been injected, and it's useless to those who have escaped the injections, like us. It's useless knowing about all this stuff, having your head full of all these intricate details, technological details, because we can't do anything with it. It's of no value to us. It's interesting, but it's of no value to help us or anyone else. Now, knowledge on its own is of no use unless it can be applied. This new tech sensationalism, PSYOP, can't help anyone. It's just knowledge for knowledge's sake. Now, the scripture declares in 1 Corinthians 8:1 that knowledge puffs up or it makes arrogant, but love edifies. Really want to stress that to everybody listening. And ask yourself this: how does knowing the minutiae or intricate details of the MAC address technology or the optoelectronic strobe technology save anyone or bring you closer to God? Think about that, people. And the answer is it doesn't. Who are you going to save with all this detailed technological information today, now, in this period of time, after everyone's virtually the mass bulk of the human population is injected and doomed?
Hmm.
The answer is no one. It's not going to save anyone. because those who are yet to be saved are in such a small group as to be almost insignificant. This is what I'm finding on the channel. The majority are walking dead already, and the tiny minority already know enough, or they have rejected Christ and this knowledge is useless to them. I've noticed a lot of unsaved, unjabbed people are chasing this knowledge and information and spreading it all over the place. For what purpose? What's it going to do? How's it going to help them? They're doomed because they've rejected Christ. So please, people, don't waste your time running all over the internet chasing this kind of information. Your time would be better spent reading the Bible or praying or helping people in a practical way or studying real history. Real history,
Yeah.
real science, right, to some degree. Personally, I do not allow myself to get caught up in all the intricate details of beast technology sensationalism, because although it may be interesting, it can no longer help people spiritually. And that's what I'm interested in, Joe. What about you?
Yeah, that's good advice. Well, it's good to have a general knowledge of, and we learned that what 4 years ago,
4 years
uh,
ago.
to
That's right.
explain to people why this is the mark. But to go any deeper than that, it's a moot point.
It's too late. This is
Yeah,
what people don't understand. It's too late. So, doing all those things, personally, I simply keep abreast of what the beast government is doing. And I keep people updated on the broader movement of what the beast government is doing so that they can be aware of the time, how time is being is gradually dwindling away. So, and that is far more important. What's in the shots is not so important anymore. We know that it is incredibly dangerous and we know how much of it works, so that we should stay clear of it, right? What else is so much more important than God's word that we waste our precious time with it? Nothing really. And time is short, people. Don't
yeah.
get caught up in all these Jesuit narratives, the gender wars, and all this technological sensationalism, political sensationalism. It's all a circus. It's incredible, the distractions that are going on today that people are caught up with. Now, having said that, let's segue into a discussion of Orson Welles, an influential person that upon examination can actually help us to understand the operation of the Jesuit Masonic, Vatican Masonic world beast kingdom and how it deceives the minds and the hearts of men.
Okay, yeah. I guess most people from our generations that know who Orson Welles is. Maybe some younger people don't. So, yeah, I guess the first question would be, who was Orson Welles?
Yep. I've targeted Orson Welles essentially because he is one of the few people,
Excuse me.
he's one of the few people in the 20th century that had a huge impact. Now we can say this about some politicians, maybe. We can say it about maybe some military leaders, and we can say it about some artists. We can't say it about too many people, really. They're all just following the Jesuit program. But with Orson Welles, we see a very, very wide reach of his influence that continues on today. And so it's very, very important to use him as an example,
Mm.
a very prominent example of someone who affected the world in a tremendous way, influenced the world in a tremendous way, and probably didn't even know that he was being manipulated with what he was doing to the day he died. So
Yeah.
let's lay down a bit of a background before we look a little bit deeper at who Orson Welles really was. An online encyclopedia has this to say, and I quote, George Orson Welles, born May 6, 1915. Now that's 4 6s. This man was born on a 4 6s date, which is interesting to note. There's no superstition involved with the numbers, but we note them because sometimes these numbers point us to why people have become prominent and why they were used. Not always, but sometimes. Now he died
Sometimes.
he died October 10th, 1985. So he lived to be 70 years old. Now, he was an American director, actor, writer, and producer who is remembered for his innovative work in film, radio, and theater. He is considered to be among the greatest and most influential filmmakers of all time, unquote. But he was more than that. He really was. But before we get into all that, let's look at the name, the meanings of his name. And this is important. Orson, the word Orson was actually his middle name. His full name was George Orson Welles. And Orson, he would take as his first name, is a male given name of English origin that is derived from the old French word ourson, meaning bear cub. Now, the name has been in use since the Middle Ages, and it was popularized in the 20th century by the American actor and director Orson Welles. And I guarantee that you won't find many people that are actually named Orson. It's not a real common name. Now, the name Wells, deriving from English origins, holds a symbolic meaning rooted in ancient times, and it epitomizes a connection to the source of life itself, as in a well of water, or a wellspring, representing wells or springs that have sustained civilizations throughout history. So there is an occultic symbolic meaning to his name. He is the bear cub connected to the source of life itself. Now, what source of life would that be? Well, for Orson Welles, it was the prince of this world, Satan, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And we'll see that unfold as we go through this.
Right. All right. Well, so why do you think Orson Welles, why it's so important to know about him and discuss, even though most people today haven't heard of him?
Yeah, and this is basically the reason for doing this video message, is to, I guess, inform everybody why this person is important and the impact he did have in direct and often very indirect ways. An online encyclopedia again states this, and I quote, "His distinctive directorial style featured layered and nonlinear narrative forms, dramatic lighting, unusual camera angles, sound techniques borrowed from radio, deep focus shots, and long takes. He has been praised as the ultimate auteur." Welles was an outsider to the studio system and struggled for creative control on his projects early on with the major film studios in Hollywood, and later in life with a variety of independent financiers across Europe, where he spent most of his career. Many of his films were either heavily edited or remain unreleased, unquote. Now, this is all true. What is even more important is Orson Welles as a one-man cultural juggernaut, propelling the Jesuit order's cultural Marxism program in America and Europe during the 20th century. This is the point we want to remember Orson Welles about. How he was like a one-man cultural juggernaut, propelling the Jesuit order's cultural Marxism program in America and Europe during the 20th century. And that's what he did. Highly influential man, even though many younger people today would have no idea who he is.
Okay. Yeah. So in what way was Orson Welles serving the beast kingdom?
Yeah, this is the question that we need to ask about all famous people over the last 200 years, at least, but particularly in the 20th century. Did Orson Welles know about the power of the Jesuits in the USA? Possibly not, but he was a high-ranking Freemason and may have known a lot more than he revealed. And there is a lot of reading between the lines with Orson Welles, but there are enough clues for us to thread the truth together when we take his movies, pictures that have been taken of him, things that he has said. We look at it all together. We can read enough into it to understand kind of where this man was coming from. Now, Orson Welles acted with authority and absolute confidence, as if he had backing from a higher authority. That's really important to understand. It was almost as if he was linked or connected to the devil himself. And did he know this? Possibly not, because he claimed to be non-religious, which is absolutely not true. So the money flowed to him, particularly in the early decades, enabling him to funnel it all into his various projects. And looking closely, we see Orson Welles as an agent for social justice. Social justice is a Roman Catholic Jesuit program. That's what we see all over the world with all these movements, right? It's all social justice, right?
Yeah.
So he was an agent for social justice in everything he did. And that is a Roman Catholic agenda. Now, it's also humanism.
Right. Yeah.
It's a humanist agenda, right?
Right.
So we can see Orson Welles as an agent provocateur, or an agent of provocation. He is an agitator of the masses, stirring them up with very specific thoughts and feelings. And that is Jesuitical. Excuse me. And this is totally in line with what the Jesuits have been doing with culture, education, and politics for the last 500 years. They stir the pot constantly. They stir the masses, the pot of the masses. Why would anyone expend such great energy, time, and resources to do that? For fun? Because they're bored? Orson Welles was much too smart for that. I believe the Jesuits used his artistic vision for their own agenda, and he did not even know this. Now, before we move on, let's have a look at a longer 17-minute, 38-second video clip from the Simon Woods YouTube channel exposing Orson Welles as an FTM transgendered person. This is important because it alters our perception of a man who was just as much a woman and may have even been a hermaphrodite. We don't know. We can't prove this, but a lot of indicators point to it. So it is very difficult to tell the truth here, but it is an important facet of who Orson Welles was and why he thought and lived the way he did as an eccentrically dressed, obese, cigar smoking, drinking, alcohol drinking, bullfight loving, larger than life, and very eloquent, very intelligent he. This video will help us to paint him in a certain light, and that's why it's important that we should watch this, even though it's a little bit longer. So please be patient, people, while we watch this video. You can just share your screen, Joe. Don't forget the volume control.
Okay.
set your soul free. Feel that time.
Sorry about the music, folks. It's Simon's thing to put this weird music in. It's kind of distracting.
Yeah, a bit obnoxious.
Yes. Here we go again. It's all in the numbers.
Yeah. Wow. Definite female aura, and can't deny that. Some of those pictures were, really clear. Uh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, she was a real transformer.
Yeah.
See all the transformations?
Yeah.
And to see that the body morph
Mhm.
from the young Orson to the older Orson. Wow, the body just morphed and ballooned. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
sure did. Right.
It's amazing. Amazing person. We'll never know fully what she was, but it's definitely there. All the clues are there in
Okay.
those pictures. So thanks for hanging in
Yeah.
there, people, with all that crazy music.
Jazz, bluesy jazz music there.
That's right. We could have just I
Okay.
could have taken that soundtrack out, but and we could have talked over top of the pictures, but I thought that would have been a bit distracting for people watching it.
Yeah, probably so.
Do you see all the
Okay.
pictures with him wearing a fedora?
Yeah, quite a few.
Loved wearing hats.
Hmm. Yeah,
Masonic.
yeah. So can we go over a brief history of Orson Welles before we plunge into this here?
Yep, that's important. So I'm just going to read a little bit out of an online encyclopedia. It states this, and I quote: George Orson Welles, again, was born May 6, 1915, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the son of Richard Head Wells and Beatrice Ives Wells. He was named after one of his great grandfathers, influential Kenosha attorney Orson S. Head, and his brother George Head. So Orson is a direct descendant of Puritan immigrants who came on the Mayflower. That's important to understand.
Hmm.
These are supposedly Protestant people generations later, and they're all atheists, humanists, God-hating people. This is an amazing thing. You can see how things degenerate very, very quickly over 3, 4, 5 generations.
Yeah.
Now, despite his family's affluence, this article says, Wells encountered hardship in childhood when his parents separated and moved to Chicago in 1919. This is right in the middle of the Spanish flu epidemic, fake Spanish flu epidemic. 1919. I did a video called 1919 about that. So if anybody hasn't
Yeah.
watched that, please go listen to that because that's very interesting. It says here his father, who made a fortune as the inventor of a popular bicycle lamp, became an alcoholic and stopped working. Now, this apparently his father had worked for a company that manufactured bicycle lamps, and I think that was a big and up and coming thing in the 1920s as
Oh, okay.
bicycling became more popular, right?
Right.
It went from horses to bicycles, and along with the development of the motor car. So then it says here, Wells's mother was a concert pianist who had studied with the Lithuanian-born pianist-composer Leopold Godowsky, unquote. And his mother died May 10th, 1924 in Chicago from either meningitis or hepatitis, depending on which account you read. And that's all very mysterious too, because she wasn't that old. So this left Orson motherless at the age of 9 years old. Now, after his mother's death, Wells ceased pursuing a musical career. Apparently, she was teaching him the piano. So this is a very gifted kid. It was decided that he would spend the summer with the Watson family at a private art colony established in Lydia Avery Coonley Ward in the village of Wyoming in the Finger Lakes region of New York State. Now, this is important because here he was connected to Islam.
Hmm.
This is the Islamic connection with Orson Welles. It says there he played and became friends with the children of the Aga Khan. The Aga Khan is the leader of the Islamic movement in Pakistan. And here he was, holidaying in New York State in the 1920s. And Orson Welles came to that art colony, and he played with the 12-year-old Prince Ali Khan. And then in what Welles later described as a hectic period in his life, he lived in a Chicago apartment with both his father and Maurice Bernstein, a Chicago physician who had been a close friend of both his parents. And I wondered whether Maurice Bernstein was practicing vaccination on Orson Welles' mother. She died immediately after the pandemic, this big pandemic.
Okay. Wow.
Immediately after the Spanish flu, which
Yeah,
was
maybe so, huh?
which is supposed to have ended 1920, maybe early 1921. So she died in 1924. So there's things there going on that, and we don't know. We're not being told. Now it says here that he lived with his father and this physician in Chicago. That must have been an interesting experience for him. And then it says he briefly attended public school before his alcoholic father left the business altogether and took him along on his travels to Jamaica and the Far East. He went to China. This is really, really unusual. And Orson Welles, I'll read a quote later where he talks about this. He says, when they returned to the USA, they settled in a hotel in Grand Detour, Illinois, that was owned by his father. And when the hotel burned down, that's interesting, the hotel burned down. Welles and his father took to the road again. Who burned the hotel down? Is this an insurance claim for more money? Because apparently his father was a high spender, and went through his fortune, right? And it says that during the 3 years that Orson lived with his father, some observers wondered who took care of whom, wrote biographer Frank Brady. So apparently he was pretty much an alcoholic, and maybe Orson Welles was stepped in early to look after his father, right? Now, it says here in an interview with Dick Cavett in 1970, Orson Welles spoke of his father, and he said, and I quote, "My father lived in Peking, that's now today's Beijing, for quite a long time, and I spent 5 or 6 years there." Now, if we look at the chronology, he didn't spend 5 or 6 years there. He may have spent as many as 3 years there, possibly 4, but it doesn't fit in with his schooling at this boys' school that he went to. He said he said about his father, he liked to live, O Prince, the high life, in a very grand way. He was born with a lot of bread, and he cast it on the waters, and it failed to return. The only way he could really live it up was in Peking, Beijing, where you could have 400 servants and give dinner parties with gold plate and have columns of ice with trees of orchids frozen into them for a mere pittance, relatively speaking. And that's what brought us to Peking, unquote, China. So the living was cheap, right? Don't know what happened there. Yeah, so the living was cheap in China. This is late 20s. This is the time when Mao Zedong is rising in China. This is the Chinese Revolution started in 1927. So this is Orson Welles and his father are there in China at this time. This is amazing. So there's a quote here. It says here, in some ways, he was never really a young boy, said Roger Hill, who became Welles's teacher and lifelong friend. So this traveling early in his life, looking after his father, losing his mother, caused Orson Welles to grow up really, really fast. He became an adult before he finished his childhood, essentially. Very important on the development of what he was to become.
Yeah, I see. So what is the influence of Orson's early life on his later achievements, do you think?
Yeah, this is very important. Essentially, Orson was instilled with humanist values from the very beginning, and his mother would have been a huge influence on Orson until the age of 9 years old. He was a sickly child. Apparently, he had every manner of sickness. He had diphtheria, whooping cough. He had trouble. He had sinus problems. He had asthma. He had problems with his spine. Wow. I mean, he was a really sickly child, but he was allowed to pursue his own artistic interests in his own time and was encouraged to paint and draw and play piano. And we have no idea whether he was actually going to public school after 5 years of age. We don't even know. It doesn't even talk about it. So Orson was not an ordinary child, and he was said to have an IQ of 185, which is quite extraordinary. He is said to have read 2 books a day during his lifetime. He was a polymath, and there were few his equal when it came to knowing stuff. His home life, his parents divorced when he was 4 years old, traveling with his father and living in foreign environments turned Orson into a man of the world at a very early age, or a woman of the world, however way you want to look at it. His 5 years of education at Todd School, this preparatory school for boys, was very formative and prepared Orson for a life as a free-thinking maverick artist. Orson was taught at an early age to be an independent free thinker by all the people around him, and in particular Roger Hill, the headmaster of Todd Boys School. Now, Orson had a lifelong close friendship or mentorship with Roger. The effect of this intimate father-son relationship on Orson and his achievements is incalculable. Can't separate it. Roger Hill looms large in Orson Welles' life because he was essentially orphaned at 15 years old, yet he had already lived in China and Jamaica and around America for 2 or 3 years. And remember that at this time, travel is by train and ship. It's slow. Commercial air travel to China only begins in 1937 and to Europe from the USA in 1939. So all the traveling that Orson did was by train and ship. You can only imagine what he would have learned, the people he would have met through all this traveling by himself and with his father.
Yeah, been quite the experience.
Can't imagine what it would have been like in the 1920s. This was the Roaring 20s, right?
Right. Yeah.
Imagine the USA. Chicago was Al Capone territory. There was the whole
Yeah.
prohibition thing with alcohol, the illegal parties, the bootlegging. This is all going on while Orson Welles was growing up.
So, can you tell us a bit more about this Todd School for Boys? What do you think?
Yeah,
What
very
was that
important.
about?
Yeah, very important. During the late 1900s and early 20th century, there was a movement in Europe and America promoting independent, unorthodox styles of education where students were encouraged to self-learn with minimal supervision. A man named A.S. Neal created Summerhill Free School in the UK in 1924. Now, this model of education was very influential between the 2 world wars. Todd School was started as Todd Seminary by a Princeton graduate named Reverend Richard K. Todd. It was based on the New England philosophy of plain living and high thinking, and in harmony with Puritan traditions. Now, the school would go through several name changes over the years and would veer away from classroom-oriented rote learning. A man named Noble Hill bought the school from the Reverend Todd in 1892, and his son Roger Hill, known as Skipper, took charge of it in 1929. That's right on the time of the Great Depression, the stock market, the Wall Street crash. This is all happening. So he took charge of the school in 1929 until it closed down in 1954. Now, Orson Welles started at the school only 3 years after Roger Hill took charge and had developed the school into what it would become. Students were free to pursue whatever line of interest they chose. The school had 10 buildings with housing dorms, music studios, printing shops, different kinds of working shops, a gymnasium, an indoor swimming pool, a theater auditorium, a radio station, an airstrip and airplane, and training school, and a farm with horses. All this in the small town of Woodstock, Illinois, with a population of maybe somewhere between 15 to 20,000 people at that time. I think today it has only about 26,000 people. So the town may even had less people. It may have even had as little as 10,000 people at that time. So this is a small town. This is where Orson Welles spent 5 years of his life kind of doing what he wanted under Roger Hill's supervision. So the education at Todd was progressive and humanist, where the child was left to decide their own course with assistance from the staff. Orson Welles was encouraged to follow his interests and was given free rein with theater production, newspaper production, and radio program production. It was at Todd that many of his skills were honed that would come into play immediately after he left Todd. He would come back to Todd many times and organize theater festivals and other artistic programs. So the Todd School, you can say, almost formed Orson Welles and honed a lot of his skills that he had already developed, artistic skills. And Roger Hill's was a huge part to play in Orson Welles' life.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
It is very interesting.
It's interesting how someone that can lose both their parents can, continue to somewhat seem to not, almost like it didn't phase him at this time of his life, huh?
Yeah. Well, Roger Hill stepped in at a very critical time because Orson came in 1926, 2 years after his mother died. He came in 1926. He graduated in 1931.
Yeah.
But this is FDR time. This is Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This is Depression time, 1929 onward. It's a decade of depression, and it seemed like Orson Welles wasn't even affected by what most of Americans were experiencing.
Yeah.
Because he came from a family of affluence, right?
Right.
And he was kind of protected in this school environment. And when he went out, it was amazing. He went to New York. He went overseas. He went to New York. And in New York, in the early 30s, he was making $2,000 a week as a radio presenter. They were using his voice. He was doing radio plays, and he was making $2,000 a week. He was a rich man. He sunk all that money back into the theater and all his projects. But he lived a high life, and he did well right out of the gate, right as soon as he left high school, basically.
Yeah. So it would be helpful, I think, here to go through a basic chronology of Orson's life. Can we do that?
Yeah, that is good because it's extensive, but I've just tried to keep it down to a minimal here, and I will just go quickly through some of the dates. So this is like a pared down overview of Orson's life, and of course it cannot include all his achievements. So it's impossible to include everything here. But basically 1915, he's born. 1919, he makes his stage debut in Madame Butterfly in Chicago, 4 years old. Think about that. Major production of Madame Butterfly in Chicago, and he's in that at 4 years old. In 1924, I'm sure his mother got him into that, right?
Okay, yeah.
She was connected because, she was a society pianist and a teacher, so I'm sure she got him connected. So all his life, he had the connections. They were there. So 1924, Beatrice Ives Wells dies in Chicago. He's 9 years old. 1926, he enrolls at the Todd School in Woodstock, Illinois. And obviously his father funded that. 1930, 4 years later, Richard H. Wells dies in Chicago. 1931, 1 year later, he graduates from Todd at 16 years old. 16 years old. In the same year, he travels alone by ship to Ireland and travels with a donkey cart around Ireland painting pictures.
Now, this is the incredible part. I mean, maybe elaborate on that a little bit. How does a 16-year-old do that?
Exactly. Apparently he conned the doctor, this Dr. Bernstein, who was his guardian. He got
Okay.
some of his father's inheritance from this doctor and got permission to go to Ireland as a 16-year-old on his own. That's incredible to me. This is how mature this boy was, right?
And he was very, very gifted, very smart, very high IQs. So it probably made him very confident to be able to travel over there at that age and
Yes. And
do what he did.
I'll bet you he made connections on the boat. This guy was a networker.
Yeah.
So he made connections. He endeared himself to people. They helped him out, and they gave him a leg up. They opened doors for him, right? So this is how it worked. He was a very, very, very amazing socialite. He just had the gift of the gab. And then he finishes this kind of 8 months touring around Ireland with a donkey cart, runs out of money, runs out of supplies, and in Dublin, he fronts up at the Gate Theatre, and he cons his way into acting in a play. This is like a professional theater, right?
I watched one of the interviews, and he actually got the star role of the play.
He conned
convinced
himself.
These people. Yeah, he conned his way in there, convinced them that he had all this experience. Yep. The guy said, well, we knew he didn't have experience, but somehow he pulled it off with a stellar performance.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the amazing thing about Orson Welles. So then he went to London after that, and he tried to get a working visa, and he couldn't. Probably because of his age and whatever. But anyways, he went back to the USA. 1932, the next year, March 1932, Wells performed in W. Somerset Maugham's The Circle at Dublin's Abbey Theatre. So he's moving around. He's like 17 years old. He's acting in professional theaters. Now he did have acting experience because he set up all the plays at Todd School for 5 years. He was no slouch, right? Now in 1933, he's back in the USA. In spring 1933, he traveled via the SS Exermont, a stamp trimmer, to Morocco in Africa. and while he's on this ship and in Morocco, he's doing all the illustrations and organizing these Shakespeare books for high schools.
Wow.
Simplified Shakespeare, right? And he stays with notable people in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. So here's his connection with Islam.
Okay.
Right? So he's got the connection with Islam, Islamic people, Muslims in New York at that art camp when he was young. Now he's in a Islamic country, staying with Islamic people, high-ranking Islamic people. How that connection would happen, I have no idea. Same year, end of that year, he's back in Chicago. And 1933, same year, he's put under this woman. Her name was Cornell. So her husband was the director of Guthrie McClintock, this play, and Wells was put under contract, and he was cast in 3 plays: Romeo and Juliet, The Barretts of Wimpole Street, and Candida, by this husband and wife team. He was connected with these. Somehow he got connected with these people, and he began touring in repertory around the United States in November of '33, with the first of more than 200 performances taking place in Buffalo, in New York. So by the time he finished this, Orson Welles was a seasoned actor, director, producer.
At 18 years old.
18 years old. And in 1934, he produced his first short black and white silent movie called Hearts of Age at the Todd School. So you can see he's going backwards and forwards between the USA, the Todd School, Chicago. Todd School is outside of Chicago, you know. So he's moving around. He's connecting with people. He's acting in stage plays. He's being paid for this. He's no slouch. He's very, very progressive, very ambitious. In 1934, same year, Welles got his first job on radio with the American School of the Air through actor-director Paul Stewart, who introduced him to director Knowles Enterkin. So he's making connections with the whole art, the glitterati of American art culture.
Yeah.
Radio, theater. It's amazing. And that same year, he marries Virginia Nicholson, another actress. And this is interesting because it's hard to tell whether she is a he. We don't know what the heck is going on there, and you have to look very closely at the pictures. It's very difficult to know. Same year, 1934, Broadway debut as Tybalt in Romeo and Juliet, 19 years of age. On Broadway. He's 19 years of age. He's on Broadway. This is really an amazing person. Just in the natural, if you just want to look at, he's an amazing person. In 1934, the same year, Romeo and Juliet opened at the Martin Beck Theater in New York. 1935, the next year, Welles made his debut on the CBS radio series, The March of Time. So he's absolutely planted in New York, radio, theater. And in 1937, he founded the Mercury Theater with John Houseman, who was in charge of the Negro Theater. That was established under Roosevelt's New Deal, right? In 1938, he did War of the Worlds radio broadcast on Halloween night, which freaked out a part of northeastern the United States, and became a celebrity overnight with that. 1940, he divorced his wife. In 1940, he divorces Virginia Nicholson. 1940, he takes up with Dolores Del Rio, a Latino actress. That's when their partnership begins. 1940-41, he produces Citizen Kane, probably one of the most famous movies of all time. 1942, he produced, 41, between 41 and 42, he started production of The Magnificent Ambersons, which he was never able to finish.
So at 20, just real quick, at 20, he was 25 when he produced Citizen Kane.
Yes.
Citizen Kane.
Yes.
Touted one of the greatest cinematic movies of all time.
Yes. So he's a child prodigy. He's a child prodigy. And the way he filmed Citizen Kane has established a precedent for cinema forever since that time, right?
Yeah.
So 42, he whizzed off to Brazil to produce this multicultural documentary, which is propaganda, titled "It's All True." And he was down there, so he wasn't able to finish The Magnificent Ambersons. 43, his relationship with Dolores Del Rio ends. 1943, same year, he marries Rita Hayworth, very famous tranny, MTF tranny. 1946, radio broadcast series Racial Injustice in the South. 1947, he's basically exiled to Europe, possibly dodging the Un-American Activities House Committee hearings of Joseph McCarthy. who is also from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Same place that Orson Welles comes from. Amazing. These people are all crossing paths in good ways and bad ways, right? 1947, he divorces Rita Hayworth. 1947, he produces The Lady from Shanghai, which starred Rita Hayworth. 1948, he produced the Macbeth, the film. 1948-51, he was filming Othello, which was filmed in Italy and Morocco again. He's back in Morocco. See, Morocco, Italy. 1950, he did the Faust Review. 1955, he marries Paola Mori, another very famous MTF tranny. 1955, he's doing Moby Dick rehearsed. 1958, Return to America. He does Touch of Evil in Los Angeles. Very famous movie, A Touch of Evil. 1966, he begins a partnership with Oya Kodar, a Croatian MTF. In 1966, he stars in A Man for All Seasons, and he plays Cardinal Wolsey. 1968, excuse me, he films The Immortal Story, a French TV movie based on an Isaac Dinesen tale. 1973, he produces F for Fake, the documentary.
Yeah, I watched that. I watched that.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good.
It's a movie about lies and truth.
Mhm.
It's amazing. 1970 to 76, he produced The Other Side of the Wind, which was never released cinematically, but I think is about to be finished and released cinematically all these years later. In 1985, Orson Welles dies in Hollywood. So it's basically a basic timeline with some of the high points in his life. Now,
Yeah.
1986, 1 year later after he dies, Paola Mori dies. His third wife dies in a car accident in Las Vegas. 1987, the next year after she dies, Rita Hayworth dies of Alzheimer's in New York City.
Hmm.
In 1996, Virginia Nicholson dies in Wiltshire of old age in Wiltshire, England. And all three of his lives outlived him.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but and he had three children. Rebecca Wells, Christopher Wells Fitter, who was advertised in a early when she was born as a he, and is now a she, right? I found the newspaper article where his birth was announced as a he, and she then later became a she. So Christopher Wells Fitter and Beatrice Giuditta Wells. Now, Rebecca Wells died in Tacoma, Washington in 1994. Christopher Wells Fitter is 86 years old and still alive. Beatrice Giuditta Wells is still alive and 68 years old.
Okay. Yeah, I saw some pictures of his kids, and they looked rough. They all look like men.
Yeah,
These women. Yeah.
I think one of them was a real girl.
One of them.
One of them was a real woman. I can't remember which one, but again, I'm not even too sure about that because of all this flipping and inverting, right?
Yeah. Well, when you read through this timeline of his life, it seemed that he was destined for legend. Basically,
yes.
The dark hand of destiny was leading him through this.
Yes.
So, how much of that? I mean, what do you think? Like, if Orson Welles was a real dude, and he was just a mediocre talent and didn't have this inane gift to create with his videos like he did, would he have been used to this level? Well, I guess if he was mediocre talent, he wouldn't have been. But how much of this is being due to his gender and these different things? I mean, what's your thought on that?
It all figures in. But
All
Orson
figures
Welles,
in. Yeah.
Orson Welles comes into history at the right time.
Mm.
He starts right at the beginning of the 1930s. That is the perfect time for him to get going, because Hollywood is still forming. It's not like it is today.
Right.
And he could be a maverick. He had that
Right.
opportunity. He had the connections. It was the right time in history, along with what he called a lot of luck.
Yeah. And he had the smarts and he had the talent.
Yes.
Right. So it was all working
He was a
together
mover. He was a mover and a shaker, right?
yeah. Yeah. And watching his interviews, he's a really, man of the world, you can see, or she was a man of the world. Man, so
It's confusing, right?
yeah. But a likable person,
Yes.
captures your attention and so
Yep. There's a lot going on there. That's why I wanted to have a look at this, and
yeah.
so that other
Right.
people can become aware of this person and how influential he or she really was.
Yeah, and your previous videos have led up to this video with doing a topic on him. You highlighted him in world your I forget the video number, War of the World
Yes.
and Third Man. So yeah,
Yep.
this
He's in a few videos, and I read biographies on Orson Welles years ago,
uh-huh.
so I had some understanding about him, but I did not know about the Jesuits at that time. I think I read Robinson's biography of Orson Welles, and that was written. That was written 20 years ago, I think.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
this is all pre me knowing anything about world power and who controls it all. And the Jesuits control art, any kind of art. They control it all because art is their medium to influence the minds of men.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's the number one way to do it, right? Art and education, culture and education.
Right. Right. So maybe this would be a good place to read a few excerpts from the New Yorker magazine article posted in 2015 about Orson Welles.
Yeah, I think this is important. I've just taken excerpts out of that article. The article is titled "The Shadow: 100 Years of Orson Welles." And you can read that online. So anybody who wants to go and read that and is interested in this topic, please go and do that, because it's a very, very well written article. I wouldn't say that if it wasn't, because I'm very picky about writing. And this was posted November 29th, 2015 in the New Yorker online. The Shadow: 100 Years of Orson Welles. Very good article. So just reading, and I'm quoting here: enthusiasts and skeptics agree that Welles has a way of slipping from one's grasp. That's true. It's very hard to deal with this topic. It took me 6 days to try to figure a way in, and then 2 days to quickly put it all together. This was a hard topic for me. This is
Okay.
true. Wells has a way of slipping from one's grasp because you can't define him easily. He was so many things to so many people in so many ways. This writer says, on one hand, he spun tales of damage, power, and newspaper tycoon rises from poverty and ends in desolation, talking here about Citizen Kane. A cop fakes evidence in order to convict people he thinks to be guilty. That's A Touch of Evil. A macho director secretly longs for the young male stars of his pictures. I just forget the name of that movie. And Truffaut once described Wells's work as a meditation on the weakness of the strong. And I think that's true. When you look through the thread running through Wells' work, it's a meditation. His movies are a meditation on the weakness of the strong. I think that's very, very true. On the other hand, the movies take life from the margins, from the grotesques in the background. That's true too. Orson Welles loved to ham it up with grotesque characters in his movies. The writer goes on to say, the touch of evil becomes sublime at the moment when Marlene Dietrich saunters into view as the proprietor of a Mexican brothel that echoes with skeletal player piano music. And if you haven't seen A Touch of Evil, I would recommend it, because these movies that Orson Welles made are not doing what Hollywood movies have been doing for the last 40 years.
Okay.
They are like art, full of humanism and humanist themes, but they're like art. So they're doing something different. Now, I don't recommend anybody go watching all of Orson Welles' movies, but definitely, if you want to know a little bit more about him, you have to go and look at some of the movies that he made. Otherwise, you can't get an idea of how brilliant this guy really was at movie making, telling stories in film. This writer goes on to say the films are full of plays within plays, screens upon screens, an incessant flicker of shadows on walls reminds us that we are looking at projected images. Orson Welles was brilliant at doing this, packing it all in there in a way that nobody else had done before him. All this comes to a head, the writer says, in the late period masterpiece F for Fake, a study of hoaxes that itself turns out to be a hoax. It's amazing, really amazing how he did that.
Yeah.
The writer goes on to say Wells causes endless trouble because of his unstable place in the American cultural hierarchy of high and low art. That's true. That's true. People can't place Orson Welles in the hierarchy because he's all over the place and doing it so brilliantly. The writer says here he loved tragedy and vaudeville, expressionist cinema, and boys' adventure stories. He converted genre vehicles like Touch of Evil into surreal labyrinths. He made Macbeth look like gothic horror. He was a subversive populist, a celebrity avant-gardist. He was also frequently a political artist, one who came of age during the heyday of the Popular Front and never ceased to roil the culture industry. That's true. Orson Welles was constantly at loggerheads with Hollywood and the culture industry. People hated him. They loved him and hated him. It was a love-hate relationship. That's why he had such a difficult time. But I'm sure that was all organized as well. So the writer says here, despite acres of commentary, much about him remains relatively unexplored. His identification with African Americans, his investigation of sexual ambiguities, that's important. In a strange way, he is still active, still working. If, as is hoped, a completed version of The Other Side of the Wind soon emerges, he may confound us once again. So it's like the legend of Orson Welles refuses to die. It just keeps popping up again and again because he was such a big figure. Now, the writer goes on to say Welles' almost overnight emergence as the boy genius of the American theater is often attributed to luck. He himself said so, and luck appears in McGilligan's subtitle, but the decisive factor was the cultural political atmosphere of the mid-30s. That's what I was saying before. It's this cultural political atmosphere of the mid-30s was ready for Orson Welles. It's almost as if it demanded that a person like Orson Welles appear.
Yeah, I see that.
So for the only time in American history the government was generously funding the arts, that's the Roosevelt program, by way of the Works Progress Administration, and radio networks and movie studios were cultivating quality or prestige products. It's the first and only time in American history this happened. So during this period, Toscanini became a star of NBC radio, and several Thomas Mann novels became Book of the Month Club selections. Neither Callow, he's referring to other film critics here, neither Callow nor McGilligan does full justice to the New Deal underpinnings of Welles' career. The New Deal was a government program under Roosevelt, FDR. And many people don't talk about how important that was to Orson Welles making it and doing what he was able to do, right?
Right. Yeah.
He said, so this writer says, for that you have to turn to Michael Denning's 1996 book titled The Cultural Front, which presents Welles as the American Brecht, or to James Narramore's classic study, The Magic World of Orson Welles, recently reissued by the University of Illinois. Now, he says here that Welles' entree was the Federal Theater Project, FTP, which tended to take a hard left Popular Front line and pointedly boosted African American theater. the FTP's New York Negro unit fell into the hands of the Romanian-born, British-educated producer John Houseman. Houseman is a very important figure in movies and theater. And he had admired Welles's Tybalt in Romeo and Juliet. He'd obviously been there and seen the production. At the end of 1935, the idea arose of mounting an all-black Macbeth, and Houseman invited Welles to direct it. The Voodoo Macbeth, as it became known, set the template for Wellesian theater, a displacing concept because the action was moved to a Caribbean island reminiscent of Haiti in the era of Henri Christophe. So they took Macbeth, which is set in Scotland in the Shakespeare play, and they moved it to Haiti and turned it into an all-black production. This is the kind of thing that Orson Welles was doing. He was turning theater upside down and reinventing it. It says here, stark, eerie lighting, ruthless editing. Welles and Houseman subsequently formed an FTP unit called Project 891, which launched Mark Blitzstein's pro-union musical, The Cradle Will Rock. In 1937, as the FTP came under political attack, this is interesting, political attack. This is a government program. Came under political attack. Wonder what's going on there, right? It says here that Welles and Houseman founded the independent Mercury Theater. Mercury. Remember, these people are infatuated with the gods, right?
Yeah.
Their first production at Julius Caesar in a fascist setting was a sensation, and Welles soon landed on the cover of Time magazine. So
Wow.
Orson Welles was on the cover of Time magazine in 1937. The same writer goes on to say, in the same period, Welles achieved radio stardom as a hypnosis-inducing vigilante on The Shadow. This series ran for nearly a year. He was the voice of The Shadow. So revenue from this and other radio appearances was funneled into his FTP shows, causing President Franklin Delano Roosevelt to joke. This is interesting. Franklin Delano Roosevelt joked that Welles was the only operator in history who ever illegally siphoned money into a Washington project. It's bizarre what's going on there, right?
Yeah.
Adapting Shakespeare, Dickens, Dracula, and dozens of other literary properties. Bernard Herrmann joined Welles as house composer and later followed him to Hollywood, becoming the magus of film music in Hollywood. The magus. Remember, the magus is the fifth level of witchcraft, right?
Yeah. The magus. Yeah, that's right.
They know what these terms mean. So all these very talented people are being discovered and drawn to Orson Welles like moths to a flame, right? And then he takes them and he puts them and takes them to where they go to higher levels. It's almost like the Jesuits are, through the Freemasons, are silently directing the movement of people and talent through this time period. It's bizarre.
It is.
But you can see it.
Yeah.
Now, this writer then goes on to say scholars debate whether Welles's departure for Italy in the late 40s was impelled by the approaching McCarthyite storm, which happened in the early 50s, and most likely the possibility of being called before the House Un-American Activities Committee played a role. He got a heads up, said, hey, Orson, they're going to start looking for communists, Reds under the bed. You better get out of here. He was a little bit, he was a hot potato, right? So he took off to Italy, right? In the late 40s. Now, Welles became a gypsy artist who never tied himself to one place or institution for long. More often than not, he financed projects with acting paychecks. He returned to America for brief periods, notably to make Touch of Evil in 1958. His definitive denunciation of police brutality against against minorities. That's what that movie was about, Touch of Evil. A denunciation of police brutality against minorities, but he could not regain his footing in Hollywood. Now, he goes on to say that the film historian Joseph McBride, in his 2006 book, Whatever Happened to Orson Welles, calls Welles's final decades a period of great artistic fecundity and daring and one that placed new emphasis on the disordering power of sexual desire. That's interesting. And then he says, if he left a testament, it is F for fake. And I encourage anybody who hasn't seen F for fake to go to YouTube, and you can watch it for free. Watch F for fake, produced by Orson Welles. It is brilliant. It's a documentary essay.
Video essay, yeah. I've
It's a
never
video.
really seen one like that
And
before.
you've got to watch it more than once, because there's so much packed in there, and to get the drift of it, you've got to watch it more than once. But it's educational. So this writer says, if he left a testament, it is F for fake, which anticipated the more personal documentary filmmaking of recent decades. Welles begins with a flurry of vignettes on the subject of hoaxes, drawing on footage shot by Francois Reichenbach. We see the debonair art forger Elmire Dohori, his wily biographer Clifford Irving, who proceeds to launch a hoax of his own in the form of the diaries of Howard Hughes, and Welles himself recalling the War of the Worlds uproar. To this is added an elaborate cinematic ruse, the nature which should be withheld from those who haven't seen it yet. What begins as a droll, breezy exercise becomes a magisterial meditation on art and life, truth and fiction. Wells seems to side with his bitterest critics by describing himself as a liar, a faker, a charlatan. But then he says, what we professional liars hope to serve is truth. I'm afraid the pompous word for that is art. So he's equating truth with art.
Truth with art. Yeah, interesting.
And then he says, Picasso himself said it. Art, he said, is a lie that makes us realize the truth. The alternative is grim. Reality? It's the toothbrush waiting at home for you in its glass, a bus ticket, a paycheck, and the grave. Unquote.
Yeah. Oh, man. There's a quote in the F for fake where Orson says, magicians are merely actors acting as magicians. Thought that was interesting.
It's true. It's true. They're all magicians, and movie making is magic. It's sorcery.
Sorcery, magic. Yeah.
This is why movies are so dangerous.
Yeah, they really are. And you say it all the time. There's no movies that are made for. There's always an agenda in every movie.
Packed. Yeah.
Packed with. I forget the word you use, but I like how you explain that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Anyways, for people who want to investigate this a little bit further, F for fake on YouTube, or read this article on the New Yorker. It's the whole article is very informative.
Yeah. So what is Orson Welles' religious background?
Yeah, that's important. Here's what is recorded about Orson's religious beliefs. I'm just going to read a few quotes. When Peter Bogdanovich was a very famous Hollywood director during the 70s and 80s, 90s too, I think. When Peter Bogdanovich once asked him about his religion, Welles gruffly replied that it was none of his business. Then misinformed him that he was raised Catholic. Actually, that's not true. He didn't misinform him, because Welles basically was Catholic. And we'll look at that in a minute. He said that although the Welles family was no longer devout, it was fourth generation Episcopalian, and before that, Quaker and Puritan. Now, Episcopalianism is simply American Catholicism. That's all it is. So yes, he didn't lie. He was a Catholic. Now, the funeral of Welles's father, this is interesting. Richard H. Wells was held in an Episcopalian church. So, let's just call it for what it is. Those are the facts. Now, in April 1982, when interviewer Merv Griffin asked him about his religious beliefs, Welles replied, quote, "I try to be a Christian. I don't pray really because I don't want to bore God," unquote. So this is his way of dismissing Christianity and and his any affinity with it, right?
Mm.
Excuse me. Now, near the end of his life, Wells was dining at Ma Maison, simply means my house in French, his favorite restaurant in Los Angeles, when proprietor Patrick Terrell conveyed an invitation from the head of the Greek Orthodox Church, who asked Wells to be his guest of honor at Divine Liturgy at St. Sophia Cathedral. Wells replied, and I quote, "Please tell him I really appreciate that offer, but I am an atheist," unquote. So you can see he's not owning up to anything, but yet he did by calling himself Catholic, right? Now,
Yeah.
It says here that Orson never joked or teased about the religious beliefs of others, wrote biographer Barton Whaley. He accepted it as a cultural artifact. Religion was a cultural artifact suitable for the births, deaths, and marriages of strangers and even some friends, but without emotional or intellectual meaning for himself. Now, Orson Welles died of a heart attack, slumped over his typewriter at the age of 70. He was a freewheeling, pagan, Catholic, Masonic, Luciferian humanist all his life. Now, how do we know this? Well, let's watch this short 3-minute 39 promotional video clip trailer for a movie titled Black Magic, released in 1949, starring Orson Welles, which Joe, thank you, Joe, discovered yesterday. I crammed it in there, rearranged things, and put it in there because I had not come across Black Magic, and I had not had time to watch all of his stuff, even though I've seen a lot of Orson Welles stuff in the distant past. I had not come across Black Magic. Now, this was released in 1949. This is after the World War II. You will see Wells dressed in a Shriner Freemason uniform with fez cap emblazoned with the Masonic square and compass medallion. He is also wearing what looks like a Jesuit full sun medallion on his chest and a number of serpent patches and other occult symbols on his jacket, as well as 2 5-pointed stars, one on his shoulder and one on the back of his bandana. On his jacket arm cuff, there is also a crescent moon denoting Islam. He is also wearing earrings signifying androgyny. Now, this is about as in your face as it can get. The truth in plain sight in the movies. So let's have a look at that. Let's watch that.
Yeah, this clip shocked me when I came across it. And just in your face, like you said.
Amazing.
Here we go. Yeah, it really is. Let me know if you can see this, brother.
Physicians of Paris have met our master.
Your Majesty, there's one little matter they all forget. If I can cure, I can also afflict. I can also afflict.
Gypsies are going south, Joseph, into Italy.
He will stay at me, Costas.
We're not staying.
Our next,
And
Joseph.
we're not going south either.
What do you
We're
mean?
starting over again. And not with a carnival and colored water, but with a carriage and silks and laces and a flood of gold coins.
Where did you get that?
You think I stole it? I earned it.
Earned it.
Oh, is he sick, Gaetano?
Are you sick?
No, I'm not sick, but half the world is.
What are you getting at, Joseph Balsamo?
Joseph Balsamo, no. That was good enough for a gypsy carnival faker, but not for one who will be known as the world's greatest wonder worker. A healer possessed of supernatural powers, divine, godlike. Oh, look. The stars. Far out in space, there's a great comet. My mother told me of it. The swiftest comet in the skies. It's called Cagliostro.
I'm half afraid.
You'd have more cause if the double weren't so perfect.
We'll bring her to my house in a closed carriage tonight.
Afraid not, madame.
What?
This woman is ill. She needs my help. And so do you.
Are you trying to threaten us?
I'm merely pointing out that you have acquired a new partner in this little intrigue, whether you like it or not.
I like you. You'll do well at court.
At court, madame.
There's a special reception in honor of the Paris Faculty of Medicine. Your name has been included.
And shall I have the honor of seeing the real Marie Antoinette?
You can't very well miss her. She sees to that.
Really, Monsieur Prophet? You ask a great many questions for one who's supposed to read the future.
But I can read the future, Vicomte, and the words are very clear.
Well, since you insist on being a partner, I think it only fair to tell you that we're gambling for the highest stakes of all, as high as the throne of France.
Wow.
Just about says it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was Orson Welles all about? It's all in there.
Yeah.
God,
Certainly
God,
was.
godlike, an obsession with becoming godlike, magic, sorcery, spells. I mean, it's all in there.
Yeah. He says, I can heal at the beginning. He says, I can heal, but I can also afflict. Yeah, there's just so much in there with the did you see the demonic statues in the background when he was in that last scene?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Orson Welles was a very, very capable magician.
Yeah.
All the great magicians were high-level Freemasons, including Harry Houdini, who knew Orson as a boy and taught him tricks. These people are all connected. He knew Harry Houdini. I mean, references to magic and occult practices run through many of Orson's movies. An online encyclopedia states that Orson Welles' magic show, he was producing a magic show for Hollywood, is an unfinished television special by Orson Welles filmed between 1976 and 1985 when he died. In it, Welles performs various tricks for the camera, promising that no trick photography is used. And Welles had a lifelong interest in magic, having been taught his first magic tricks by Harry Houdini in the 1920s when Welles was still a boy. He had already demonstrated his magic tricks in a number of films and television programs, including Follow the Boys in 1944, Magic Trick in 1953, and Casino Royale in 1967, and on his own unsuccessful 1979 pilot for the Orson Welles show. So making movies was magic to Orson. It was an extension of his magical tricks, and he said so. Many times he alluded to this. So watching moving pictures is a magical ritual where the viewer is hypnotized by the flow of flickering scenes. Magic and sorcery are one and the same. So watching movies is voluntary participation in sorcery. While the eyes are watching the picture sequence, the subliminal messages in the film are received by the brain, but not remembered consciously. The brain is programmed. Now, Orson Welles was a high-level sorcerer, deceiving the public with his movie illusions. He admits this in F for Fake, where he states that the artist lies in order to reveal the truth. So,
yeah,
this whole, and not only that, all the humanism, the morality plays in his films have programmed generations of people.
Yeah, that was the first movie clip I've ever seen with the actual Freemasonic symbol on it, displayed like that. Now there might be others, but that's the first one I've seen.
That's
And
about
and
as
yeah,
blatant as you
it
get.
had to have been his because they're not going to allow their symbol to be used as a costume design.
I don't think so. And
Yeah,
because he's a high level Freemason, he would have been far more easily, how can I say it, able to do this, right?
to do that, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Incredibles, but it's all there. It's on the record.
hmm Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you mentioned in a previous video that Orson Welles was involved with American and possibly British intelligence. Let's talk about that for a little while.
Okay, so yeah, this is true. And who controls the intelligence agencies? The Jesuits.
hmm
And they're all either Freemasons, high level Freemasons, or Catholic Knights controlling all these agencies and in the highest levels of these administration of these agencies, right?
Mm.
So we need to remember that Orson Welles comes into prominence during the 1930s before the OSS, or Office of Strategic Services, even existed yet. Now, the OSS would be created in 1942 during World War II and would become the CIA in 1945 at the end of the war. So the OSS only existed for a couple of years. And then it became a fully fledged CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, in 1945 at the end of the Second World War. So Orson's star was rising in the 30s when the FBI was the chief intelligence agency in the USA. We are told in an online encyclopedia, and I quote, prior to the formation of the OSS, the various departments of the executive branch, including the State, Treasury, Navy, and War departments, conducted American intelligence activities on an ad hoc basis with no overall direction, coordination, or control, unquote. Now this is blatantly false. In another article on the Federation of American Scientists website, we read this, and I quote, during the 1930s, the FBI launched an extremely effective counterintelligence attack on German and Japanese espionage and sabotage operations in the Western Hemisphere, infiltrating many networks and arresting dozens of agents, unquote. Is this true? I don't know. Were the Japanese and the Germans that effective in the United States? Maybe. We get some idea that they were there. How effective their presence was, we don't know. Now, the FBI was the CIA before the CIA became the CIA.
Hmm.
So Orson Welles is growing up during a period of time when the FBI was in charge of all intelligence activities in the USA and abroad. So the United States administration was already heavily involved in intelligence operations in the early part of the 20th century before the start of World War I. And I went into this in the video Spooks. So if any of you listening have not watched that video, I encourage you to watch Spooks. It's all about the CIA and intelligence agencies and who controls it. We are told that the FBI had a long file on Orson Welles and his activities, I'll bet. As far as I could discover, Orson was never arrested or harassed by the FBI or the CIA later. In fact, it appears as if he knew exactly when to disappear overseas, or when to dodge a bullet. Toward the end of his life, the IRS cornered him. This is another Jesuit agency, the Internal Revenue Service. The IRS cornered him, and he was attempting to pay back a large sum that he apparently owed them. Now, Orson was never involved in any conflict, as far as I know. He dodged World War II and the Spanish Civil War, the Korean War, revolutions in Latin America and Africa, and as far as I know, never had any major threat to his life in all of his travels. Now, that's saying something with all his moving around.
Yeah.
He was in Beijing with his father just prior to the Chinese Revolution in in 1927, like I said, and Orson seemed to have lived a charmed life essentially after surviving multiple childhood diseases. It's an amazing story of this character, what he went on to achieve. Now, on October 28, 1940, Orson Welles met H.G. Wells, in an interview broadcast on San Antonio radio station KTSA in Texas. Now, that's interesting. The broadcast was fairly innocuous and was playing on the sensationalism of famous British Wells meets famous American Wells. Slight difference in the spelling, but they're both Wells. They come from the Wells line. Now, world politics was mostly discussed in light of the looming war in Europe and Japan's alliance with the Axis powers in Europe. We are told that the meeting was by chance, but of course it was planned well in advance. They always say this, it was just by chance. H.G. Wells is known for his involvement with the British government and MI6. He is absolutely instrumental in the formation of the United Nations and the New World Order. He wrote the draft for the 1948 UN Declaration for Human Rights. We don't see a direct link between the American intelligence apparatus and Orson Welles, but it is there in all his movements if we look closely. And I believe Orson was also linked with MI6 in the UK because he was in the UK many times. As a creative juggernaut, the American administration would have been looking for ways to turn Orson's influence on the public to their advantage. To think that this was not happening is just naive. Was Orson aware that he was being used as a Freemason by Masonic agencies? Maybe a little, but he already had powerful connections in Britain and America by 1940. So, excuse me, he knew stuff and people were looking out for him. Yeah. Orson Welles was both protected and connected by the Masonic brotherhood wherever he went. He was rubbing shoulders with the elite in every country he spent time in. The brotherhood is a big part of the secret of his success and longevity. The other part is his brilliance and persistence in realizing his artistic vision while waiting for funding partners to agree to invest in his creative projects.
Mm-hmm.
So he is definitely involved with intelligence agencies. Now, whether this is in direct assignments or indirect assignments, I don't know. We'll never know. But seeing that they're all Freemasons, it's connected. And Freemasons do as they're told, right?
Right. Yeah. Wow. So that we know now that we know a bit about him, or quite a bit, what makes Orson Welles so important in the context of history?
Right. Okay. So the reason for doing this video is to discuss and understand how one man's life can be so influential on the masses.
Yeah,
and not just in one time period, but for generations into the future. So he's one man influencing the many. Once again, we see the one and the many, right?
Well, let me interrupt there real quick, and that's part of the Freemason creed is to. It seems like they want to leave a legacy, and that's what this man did. So that's their kind of hope. They want to. They all want to put their niche on society from that time on, even after they're gone. That's a kind of like a goal for them, right?
Yeah, it's good works. It's their good work. It's their good works.
Yeah.
Going ahead of them in the hope that whatever is coming, that it'll see me in good stead, right?
Right.
That's satanic religion. It's all about good works. So yeah.
Okay.
But this influence of one on the many, this is the big deal. Do we see direct influences of the Jesuit order on Orson Welles? No. Did he know influential Catholics? Yes. But we see that indirect influence and the subtle maneuvering of his life from the shadows through Freemasonry and through the Jesuits. If any listener hasn't watched video number 164 titled Useful Idiots, then I urge you to do so, because that's important in with what Orson Welles would become. Now, that's video number 164. Now,
Excellent video. Yeah.
yeah. Now, the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines a useful idiot as a naive or credulous person who can be manipulated or exploited to advance a cause or political agenda. That's important. A naive or credulous person who can be manipulated or exploited to advance a cause or political agenda. Now, was Orson Welles an idiot? Not in the general sense of the word. No, he was a very intelligent person. Was he naive according to spiritual understandings of world hierarchy of control? Yes. Absolutely. I don't believe he understood who was controlling the show. So in that sense, he becomes a useful idiot who can be manipulated or exploited to advance a cause or political agenda, like the Beast World Order.
Right.
Now, in that video 164, Useful Idiots, posted in June 2021, I stated, and I quote, "What is a useful idiot in real terms?" The answer is everyone and anyone that is working with the Jesuit empire for personal gain is a useful idiot to the Jesuits. It doesn't matter if it's business, banking, education, culture, religion, intelligence, or military. If you're promoting the evil empire willfully or even naively, then you are a useful idiot, just like Charles V, who thought he was a Christian and died a pagan. Now, I said here that I only had to do a cursory glance at a few websites to find a short list of names of those useful idiots in the Jesuits' culture, music, and movies program that have now lined up to get injected. Now, remember, this is 2021 that I'm writing this. And I was looking to see who's lining up to get these injections, who's famous that's lining up to get these injections. And there was queues of celebrities, musicians, performers, actors, actresses. Unbelievable. And since that time, many of these people have died.
Yeah.
We've been reading it in the news, one here, one there, over the last 4 years. So, and they were lining up to get injected so they could get back to providing Satan's circuses to the distracted masses. Unbelievable. Even the so-called fake and anti-establishment rebel punk rockers of the 60s and 70s were lining up to get the establishment injection program.
Yeah, sure were.
And I wrote that it goes to show how deep these people are into money, fame, and idolatry. It goes to show how pro-establishment these fake rebels really are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pop music and movies was never about rebellion against the establishment, but about deals and contracts with the establishment. So the idols and stars are all prostitutes for fame and fortune, leading the masses onto the wide road to hell. Unquote. So that's what I wrote way back in 2021 in video number 164. Orson Welles was a useful idiot to the Beast Kingdom in the implementation and expansion of their cultural Marxism program in the 20th century, which really took off in the 1930s. So Orson Welles was an exceptionally talented artist who rode this program as it gained momentum. And art is what the Jesuits have been utilizing for the last 5 centuries to influence minds. Books, paintings, plays, music, photography, and film have all been utilized to propagate ideas into the minds of children. And I've talked about this at length in many, many videos.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, cultural Marxism, basically. I like that term you use. Just a quick definition for those listening who might hear it and not really know exactly what that means.
Yeah, cultural Marxism basically is, it comes from Antonio Gramsci's philosophy of cultural hegemony. Now, if you don't know about Antonio Gramsci, very important to understand where cultural Marxism, the idea of cultural Marxism comes from. Now, he wasn't the first to say this. He just developed a cohesive philosophy about this idea. The Jesuits are already practicing cultural hegemony for centuries prior to Antonio Gramsci. Now, cultural hegemony is simply the elites using culture to control the masses. In other words, bread and circuses to keep everybody distracted and controlled and amused, entertained, if you will, while they are controlling them, taking their freedoms away, and enslaving them.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we see. The Roman elites the Jesuits are doing exactly that. So this is what's been going on our whole lives, Joe.
Yeah.
And we're getting to the end of it.
Yeah. So what is the relationship between Orson Welles and Shakespeare's work?
Okay, so that's another key question. We don't know at what point in Orson Welles' childhood that he became enamored with Shakespeare, but I believe it was with his mother. There's a quote there. There's a line somebody wrote that he was quoting Shakespeare at the age of 5. So his mother must have sat him down and went through the Shakespearean plays. There's 38 of them. And he must have become enamored with Shakespeare. Imagine a 5-year-old quoting Shakespeare.
Wow.
Most 15, 16-year-olds can't quote Shakespeare. So this is a very, very intelligent young kid. And I'm sure his mother explained to him the meanings of the plays to a large degree and a lot about Shakespeare. Now, we know Shakespeare is a fiction. We don't know. It's just a nom de plume or a pseudonym for whoever wrote these plays and poems that the word William Shakespeare's name is attributed to, right? Now, I believe that I'm getting more and more to the stage where I believe it was Christopher Marlowe. And it's interesting that Orson Welles named his first child Christopher Marlowe Wells.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is interesting.
Now, that child then became a woman and changed the name to Christopher Feder Wells. Dropped the Marlowe, which is interesting. So this is why I believe Christopher Marlowe he created all of so-called William Shakespeare's plays. Very, very intelligent man, and possibly a Jesuit. Now I think Orson Welles understood this. So Orson Welles was enamored with Shakespeare from a very early age. We do know that when he started at Todd School, he basically took over the production of plays at the age of 11 years old. Very precocious kid. Roger Hill saw in him talent oozing out of this kid and said, okay, here you go. Take control of it. And he did. He designed all the productions, costumes, lighting. He did everything from the age of 11 for the school Shakespeare plays. Now, that is a very knowledgeable, confident, and like I said, precocious child. There is no doubt that Roger Hill added many insights to Orson's understanding of theater, but we'll never know exactly. What we do see is a very intelligent and innovative approach to theater productions and Shakespeare, and Shakespeare is at the center of that production, that mode of production, right? For decades after leaving Todd in 1931, he would keep coming back to Shakespeare's works for both stage productions and film productions. Orson staged his first Macbeth production in New York in 1936 with all black actors, like I said before, from the FDP or Federal Theater Project, and this was named the Voodoo Macbeth. It was government funded by the WPA or Works Progress Administration under Roosevelt's New Deal for Artists program. And this production was hugely popular, ran for another 6 weeks past the set time schedule, and it would then tour all over the United States. A black Shakespearean troupe went all over the United States in 1936. You don't hear about that. So let's have a look at a short 4-minute, 10-second video clip of that original Negro or Black person production.
Under the Works program, musicians, artists, writers, and actors contribute their share to the cultural development of the community. The Negro Theater Unit of the Federal Theater Project produced a highly successful version of Shakespeare's immortal tragedy Macbeth, which far exceeded its scheduled run in New York and was later sent on a tour of the country. The scene was changed from Scotland to Haiti, but the spirit of Macbeth and every line in the play has remained intact. In this contribution to the American theater and in other projects under the Works program, we have set our feet on the road toward a brighter future.
And I care not if thou dost for me as much. Fear not, till Burnham Wood do come to Dunsinane, and now a wood comes toward Dunsinane.
Arming out! There is no flying hiss, no tearing here. I begin to be weary of the sun, and wish the estate of the world were now undone. Ring the alarm bell! No, wind! Come, Rock! At least we'll die with harness on our backs. What's he that was not born of woman? Such a one am I, to fear or none.
Let me find him, Fortune. Tyrant, show thy face. I cannot strike at wretched turns, whose arms are hired to bear their staves. If thou beest slain and with no stroke of mine, my wife and children's ghost will haunt thee still.
What is thy name? My name's Macbeth.
Turn, hellhound, turn!
Of all men else I have avoided thee. But get thee back. My soul is too much charged with blood of thine already.
Then yield thee, coward, and live to be the show and the gaze of time. We'll have thee as our rare monsters are, painted upon a pole, and under it, here may you see the tyrant.
I will not yield. Though Burnham would be come to Dunsinane, yet I will try the land.
I have no head.
Lay on, Macduff, and damned be he who first tries, hold enough. Thou losest labor, for I bear a charmed life which must not yield to one of woman born.
Spare thy charm, and let the angel whom thou still hast served tell thee Macduff was from his mother's womb untimely ripped.
Accursed be the tongue that tells me so. And be these juggling fiends no more believed.
Hail, King! Behold, where stands the usurper's cursed head. The time is free. All hail Malcolm.
Peace! The charms wound up.
Voodoo Macbeth.
The Black Macbeth. You can stop sharing, Joe.
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, yeah, it's amazing to watch. I mean, this 1936. It's amazing that somebody actually filmed it.
Right. Yeah, I was surprised to see that.
I think Orson Welles would have done that. He would have organized that.
Yeah.
So this innovative stage production made Orson Welles an overnight sensation in New York. and opened up invitations leading to radio work. Now, Orson and Roger Hill produced a series, like I said before, a series of booklet guides of simplified Shakespeare plays for schools to use. These were sold together with voice recordings produced on record by Columbia Records. How did they get that connection, right? Now, these became very popular and almost single-handedly inserted Shakespeare in a simplified and very accessible way for high school students to perform. Now, this is how Shakespeare became standard curriculum for North American high school students. Can you see what is going on here? People, the Jesuits, using their Masonic foot soldiers, are bringing Shakespeare and theater in general back into the mainstream through government schools. Generations of students would be programmed with Shakespearean humanist morality plays. That's what they were doing. And that, together with film, just about finished off American and Canadian Western society, basically, indoctrinated everybody. So morality is defined as principles concerning the distinction between right or wrong, or good and bad behavior, and a particular system of values and principles of conduct, especially one held by a specified person or society. Now, Shakespearean morality is opposed to biblical morality. Shakespearean morality is not about turning the other cheek. It's not about loving your neighbor and no matter what they do to you. It's not about that. Schools are breeding grounds for Shakespearean morality, which is the same as Luciferian morality. And this is the really important issue with Orson Welles. You know, what did he do in his life? He did more with Shakespeare in bringing about the beast kingdom than many, many, many other people before him or after him. So did he know that what he was doing was wrong? That his actions would lead to the corruption of society? Of course not. As far as he was concerned, he was doing right by teaching morality through Shakespearean plays. He believed he was doing good by reviving the popularity of Shakespeare's plays in modern 20th century America to teach morals to children and to create a bright and vibrant American culture, right? That's what he thought he was doing. Now, the point to make here is Shakespeare's plays contain the core of story plots that are found in all Hollywood movies. Can you see the connection between theater and the rise of movie culture between 1930 and now? That's 95 years of endless Shakespearean plots in Hollywood movies, which are estimated at more than 50,000 movies have been produced in Hollywood, and all contain a variation of a Shakespearean morality tale, every single one of them. So how important is Orson Welles? He single-handedly elevated humanist philosophy to a form that was easily digested by everyone, including children. Hollywood is the greatest disseminator of humanist movie propaganda the world has ever seen. Orson Welles was a one-man tour de force for the Jesuit Vatican Empire, and he probably never even knew about it.
Incredible.
So let's just quickly look at a few classic Shakespeare plays that most people have heard of. A Man for All Seasons, in which Orson Welles starred. And here's one line from Sir Thomas More. I do none harm, I say none harm, I think none harm, and if this be not enough to keep a man alive, in good faith, I long not to live. A classic line. That's a whole philosophy in itself.
Sure is.
Yeah. Othello, from the Shakespearean play Othello, Emilia says this: "'Tis not a year or two shows us a man, they are all but stomachs, and we all but food. They eat us hungrily, and then they are full. And when they are full, they belch us." Incredible lot contained in that line. From Macbeth, here's what Macbeth says: "Life's but a walking shadow. a poor slayer that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. Sorry, a poor player. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. That's a whole philosophy in itself.
Yeah.
Here's from Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing in them to die to sleep.
Wow.
Where does it's my right to carry a gun and shoot somebody else come from?
There you go.
It comes from humanist doctrine coming out of Hamlet. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows, or to take arms against a sea of troubles. This is how dangerous Shakespeare is.
Yep.
Now here's from Julius Caesar. Mark Antony says, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears.
Listen up.
Listen up.
Got something to tell you.
I got something to tell you guys. That's right. Romeo and Juliet. Juliet says, deny your father and refuse your name, or if you will not, but be but sworn, my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. In other words, I'll give up my name if you'll just swear your love to me. I'll no longer belong to my family. Now, there's a few issues involved in that statement that only come into context when you read what she said before and what came after. But this is all Shakespearean, Jesuitical, humanist philosophy embedded in theater plays.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all been translated into Hollywood movies. That's how dangerous Hollywood movies are for indoctrinating your mind when you don't even know you're being indoctrinated. So common themes across all Shakespeare's 38 plays are love, power and politics, identity, revenge, farce, appearance versus reality, fate and free will, madness and sanity, death and betrayal, marriage, mourning, guilt, the need to make difficult choices, separation, reunion, and reconciliation. And I don't think these are all the themes. These are a host of the core themes running through Shakespeare's plays.
Yeah.
So there's so much Shakespearean wisdom in these productions, and Orson Welles knew this. He was a smart man. Now, there are 114 theater productions credited to Orson Welles between 1918 and 1960, and the list is said to be incomplete. 114 theater productions between 1918 and 1960.
Wow.
That is outstanding. It's about 40 years. So the number of unfinished and partially completed projects is in the hundreds. No one really knows the full extent of the unfinished work abandoned simply because he couldn't secure private funding. There is a room somewhere in the world that contains all of the cans of film from his unfinished projects.
Yeah.
So was Orson Welles important? Extremely important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So if Orson Welles was a big key to Jesuit cultural Marxist objectives, then why did he have so many obstacles in completing his movie projects, and why was he rejected in Hollywood?
Yeah, and we kind of touched on this just briefly earlier on, and it's the big question, right? Like, people get the wrong idea and claim that he was a failure, that he couldn't complete enough movies, and that, you know, Hollywood rejected him, so he was no good. All this is all nonsense. Remember that most of the people being used by the Jesuit control system don't know that they're being used.
Right.
Orson Welles had free will to do what it took to realize his artistic vision. The Jesuits will allow this freedom to anyone who is furthering their New World objectives. They are puppets and useful idiots. They create cultural change which plays into the hands of Rome ultimately, and maybe not even in that person's lifetime. There are millions of prominent Masonic and Roman Catholic figures that have lived and died furthering Rome's agenda without even knowing it. Now, Orson Welles and his creativity were nurtured and assisted by the Masonic Brotherhood. The arc of his creative trajectory was watched and assisted at strategic points. When his vision crossed the purposes of the Jesuits' Hollywood venture, then Orson found himself stranded all of a sudden. Right?
Yeah.
Now, this happened many times to Orson Welles. His movements and achievements were manipulated from a distance. He had to invest everything he made as an actor or narrator or guest visitor into his own film projects. So he self-funded himself most of his lifetime. And whatever we see has been self-funded. That's amazing. Very few actors are going to invest all of their income into funding their own personal projects. They're going to get somebody else to do it, right?
Right.
But he did this. This is how much he believed in what he was doing. So, yeah, he had to invest everything he made as an actor or narrator or guest visitor on talk shows and game shows in Hollywood into his own film projects. This is how the Jesuits put a collar on Orson Welles. They put a collar on him, right?
Yeah, I see.
They put a collar on Orson Welles and his giant creative ambitions. He should have finished 100+ movies, but he could only complete 23 in his lifetime. The object was to make Orson a protagonist to the Hollywood studio business. That is what they used him for. One little man against the rejection of the movie-making giant. The Jesuits used Orson's contempt for Hollywood to keep him isolated. In the end, the Jesuits turned Orson into a mythological mountain of a movie legend. The Jesuits always control both sides, and for every giant, they need a David. Remember, they control both sides. Always. And if you've got a giant, the giant is no good without a David to bring the giant down. This is what creates their stories, right?
Yeah.
This is how they enabled to divide and conquer people and to take control of society. So did Orson know that this was being done to him again? Probably to some degree, but he never would have guessed it was the Vatican. He just thought it was the studio chiefs that despised and hated him. Now, Orson shot to worldwide celebrity with his Mercury Theater War of the Worlds radio broadcast in 1938, followed by Citizen Kane in 1941. He was a legend by the age of 26, and he was determined to go even higher, but he never knew who he was up against. Orson Welles has been criticized by many as a failure after Citizen Kane, and that it was all downhill, and he was washed up before he was 30 years old. They saw him as a defeated old man making TV and game show guest appearances in Los Angeles in the last 2 decades of his life. They were and are greatly mistaken. On the contrary, Orson Welles had multiple careers. He went from success in theater in New York to success in radio in New York to success in film in Hollywood in Los Angeles to success in film in Europe to success in TV as a commentator and guest to success as a documentary maker in the last 20 years of his life. He also wrote a few books. In fact, Orson Welles continued to write movie scripts and was working on a movie project up until the night he died. So the critics had got it all wrong. The Jesuits used him right up to the very end with his artistic vision. So unbeknownst to Orson, the Jesuits had channeled him from theater to radio to movies and to TV in the end in the service of the great beast cultural Marxist program of dumbing down the American masses. That's exactly what he was used for. Generation and Canadian masses and anybody else who was watching, and especially today on the internet, a lot of people are going back and watching 70s and 80s and 90s game shows and quizzes and all these things. My mother even watches them. Sad to say.
Yeah.
But this is what he was used for. So generation after generation, Orson Welles was out there, now out of the spotlight, now back in the spotlight, now out of the spotlight, now back in the spotlight. It's amazing. Orson became a household word because of all the TV advertising he did in the 70s and 80s. And all of that money he plowed back into his own movie projects.
Mm-hmm.
So did Orson make great art? Did Orson make great art? Sure he did. All of the movie producers and directors who came after him are standing on his shoulders. They are all copying the way he did things, and yet most still can't achieve the same results because they are driven by studio demands for commercial products that make money. For his services to beast culture, Orson received many awards and accolades. He did. He lived life lavishly and selfishly and left behind broken families. It really didn't matter to him because his work was always more important than his family. He was creating his legacy. See?
Mm-hmm.
The beast system gave him everything he desired, and he consumed it all with a passion. There's a video on YouTube somewhere where Orson is talking about desserts. And he talks about all the European delicacies, the patisseries and desserts, and he uses all their names. He knows them all because he's eaten them all day after day after day. How do you think he got so fat?
Yeah.
He loved them. And the beast system gave him everything he desired, and he consumed it all with a passion. He was a slave to food, alcohol, cigars, sex, celebrity, and he died a sick and very obese man. So, or woman, however way you want to look at it, cigar smoking woman. That's interesting, isn't it? So Orson Welles is the embodiment of what Paul was warning us of in Philippians 3, verses 18 and 19. And Paul says, "For many walk, of whom I have told you often, and now tell you even weeping, that they are enemies of the cross of Christ, whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, and whose glory is in their shame, who mind earthly things."
Wow.
That's Orson Welles. That's exactly Orson Welles. Orson Welles's God was his belly.
How would you like that on your headstone?
Yeah. Although he didn't see it that way, his worldly glory was his shame. Orson Welles wouldn't have looked at it that way. He would have thought it was great, but it was his shame. And even though he was a fairly humble person, and his God was his appetites and lusts, which he was busy satisfying to the day he died. He didn't fear God or death because he was guaranteed a place in the Masonic heaven by his membership in the lodge.
Mm-hmm.
So let's have a look at a gallery of pictures that will shed a bit more light on Orson Welles and who he really was. We'll have a look at those. And then we can kind of finish up. Okay, so in this first picture, we can see Orson at 3 years old. Is that a girl? Is that a boy? It's hard to tell. It always was hard to tell with Orson Welles. Very difficult to tell. But there he is holding the American flag. I don't know what he's got in his other hand. Some little figurine, it looks like. There he is at 3 years old. Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Joe. There's Orson Welles, I think, at 6 years old with his mother. Mm-hmm. You see the 6 or 7 years old there, I think, with his mother, Beatrice. That's a few years before she died.
Yeah.
Okay,
fairly good quality on the picture still.
Yeah, pretty good quality on the picture. Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Joe. Oh, no, you're in a movie. Okay, that's it. Yep. Okay, so here's Orson Welles at, I believe here he is 8 or 9 years old.
Mhm.
And interesting haircut.
Yeah.
If you look at his face, you could see a girl.
Yeah, I see the girl.
You could see a girl looking out from behind those eyes. He hasn't got prominent eyebrow ridges, and he's got very thin, very feminine lips.
Yeah.
But he morphs as he ages. He morphs. He's like a transformer.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Joe. There he is, at 11 years old on the stage. Remember that he had already been on the stage at 4 years old, but here he is on the stage at Todd's school, acting in one of his stage productions. And there he is on the left.
Yeah, it looks real feminine there in this
Yeah.
picture.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. He's an amazing character. Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Joe. Here's Orson Welles. Maybe you can expand that a little bit. Okay, Orson Welles is 1, 2, 3. He's fourth on the left. He looks like a real boy there. And you wonder what's going on. He's morphing as he goes on. He's still got a widow's peak there. There he is with a bunch of other boys. Now, if you look really closely at these boys, you'll see that a lot of them have very short torsos and long legs. I don't think all of them, but many of them have short torsos, long legs, indicating that they possibly also might be FTMs. Now, was this school harboring and looking after rich FTM kids? I believe so personally, but I can't prove it.
Yeah. Huh.
Okay, that's a, I don't know, Orson must be around 12, maybe 13, 14, something like that. This is at the Todd School in Illinois.
Yeah. Well, it says 16 years old.
Oh, 16 years old. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
16 years old. There he is. He's about to graduate from Todd School and go to New York and go to Ireland first and then come back and go to New York and become a hit by the time he's 19. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Joe. There's a photo that's attributed to as being Orson. And it really, really does look like him at the Todd School.
Yeah.
And you can see long legs, very short torso.
Mm-hmm.
But with the hairstyle, he looks at first appearances, he looks like a male.
Yeah.
And I think that's how they all get away with it. A haircut and the right clothes, and people don't look twice.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the 1930s.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Joe. There's Orson, 16 years old, in his donkey cart, going around Ireland. I don't know who took the picture, but that's amazing that this kid would do this. No fear. Off he went, traveling around Ireland on a donkey cart, painting pictures, and then ended up acting in a professional capacity at the Gate Theatre in Dublin.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. 1931. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Maybe just blow that up a little bit. It's a little bit hard to see because of the light. Yeah, that's good. But here you can see he's walking like a woman. He has a woman's physique.
Yeah, you can see it there.
You can even see the V-shaped clavicles.
Right.
In the shadows. Can you see the V-shaped clavicles? The bone, his collarbones?
Yeah, you can. Uh-huh.
It's not really clear, but you can almost see it. There's a shadow that almost follows them. Follows that necklace he's wearing around his neck. But here you can see him. He's in a warm climate, probably in South America, because he went to Brazil. This is probably during doing that Brazilian film that he did for the Brazilian government. Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Joe. There he is looking down at her child with his first wife, Virginia. Now, did he give birth to this child, or did she give birth to this child? She looks like a woman. When you look at the clavicles, you can see that they're kind of V-shaped. She could have been a woman, a real woman. I don't know. It's very, very hard to tell. With Orson, everything becomes mysterious and ambiguous.
Right.
That's his first child, Christopher.
Okay.
Let's look at the next picture. There is Orson Welles walking with his second wife, Rita Hayworth.
Yeah.
Rita Hayworth is definitely an MTF.
Yeah.
So she could not have given birth to her children. So this means that Orson Welles either gave birth to his second child, or that the child was born through surrogacy.
Okay. Wow.
Amazing. And you can see he's walking like a woman.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a figure like a woman. She sort of has, but she's figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
They're both actually walking like women, right? It's bizarre. But she's walking more like a man, and she's probably been trained how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's bizarre how they do this and how they get away with it, and nobody sees
Yeah.
it.
Seems like there would have to be a whole subculture of, well, if that's the right word, just seems like they would have to do secret rituals to continue to perform this lies of deception and
Well, Freemasonry
strange.
harbors it and fosters it.
Right. Well, there you go. Yeah, that
So
explains it.
that's why Freemasonry is all over the world, is behind this whole tranny program.
Whole
It's
thing. Yeah.
It's their religion, right?
Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's have a look at the next one. There's Orson with Dolores Del Rio, one of his flings that he was involved with. She's Latino. He. And once again, you have to look really, really carefully to see whether this is a female or a male. And this is why it calls into question whether Orson Welles was a hermaphrodite and had both sets of genitalia. We really don't know how that works, and he may well have been hermaphrodite because he had a lot of difficulties when he was a child, and it could have been related to that dual sexuality.
Yeah. It says CIA above the door on the plane there.
Yeah, CIA. CIA. I think that's the airline, CIA Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at the next shot. Okay, maybe just blow that up a little bit. Okay, this is Orson Welles with his last wife, his third wife, Paula Mori, who died the year after he died in Las Vegas. She died in 1986 in a car accident, and that's weird too. Now, is she a male or a female? It's hard to tell again whether this is a tranny, two trannies together.
Yeah.
There's definitely something going on. It's really, really weird, but it's hard to totally put your finger on it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at the next. She or he was a countess. An Italian.
Which one? The one before or this one here?
This is the same one. This is Paula Mori.
There's
two pictures. And I put this picture in because it shows Orson eating. This is one of his favorite pastimes. He would consume tables full of food. He had an enormous appetite. He was a gastronome.
Yeah.
He knew all the dishes of the world. He could have written his own cookbook, right?
Okay.
And that's Paolo Mori. That same table. Somebody took a photo of them having lunch, I guess, or dinner. It looks like lunch.
Yeah.
And again, they look like a normal couple from this shot, right?
Yeah. Right.
But nothing normal here. Okay, let's have a look at the next shot, Joe.
Okay.
There's Paolo Mori again. That's a headshot of Paolo Mori. You can just see an Adam's apple if you look carefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is how good they were at producing MTFs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it must have all been in the pills, the hormone pills and the estrogen pills and the
Yep.
Yeah.
This is early in the game though.
This is early.
Yep. So prior to 1952, there was no synthetic estrogens or hormones for these people to take. So they were relying on appearances, makeup, to get away with, attracting notice to themselves.
And for people that are skeptical of this whole narrative agenda, if you go and look up hermaphrodites on YouTube and you look at some of these people's testimonies that transition from one sex to another when they finally decide, and they give their testimonies of what the dramatic effects on their body that these pills have that they take.
Yes.
From growing hair to their feet growing, their hands growing, beards growing, the way they feel, the confidence they have in being a man.
Their heads swell.
Their heads swell. So it seems incredible, and like even I'm skeptical after knowing everything I know. It's like, well, really, this I mean, how is that? But then it just is.
Yes, and I deal with a lot of that in Third Men, the video Third Men.
Right.
So if anybody hasn't watched that, it's watching this video, please go and watch the video titled Third Men. I can't remember the number for that. Not too long ago.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Joe. All right, this is Rita Hayworth in older age.
Oh, okay.
You can see the meltdown.
Yeah.
You saw them walking along on the boardwalk there, young and vivacious and carefree, and they looked the part, but now there's a meltdown going on. Rita's starting to fall apart as he is aging, right? It's incredible, but old age tells you the true story of who these people really are.
Yeah.
They can get away with it when they're young. That's why they disappear in middle age from Hollywood. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them.
Right.
I don't know how old Rita Hayworth is here, but she didn't die too old. So I would say she'd probably be in her late 50s, early 60s here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Joe. Okay, this is Orson Welles' daughter. This is the one. Now, this is also a tranny. This is a male. You're looking at a male here who then transitioned to female.
Okay.
Now, this is a pretty good-looking female, but it's a male. And you can tell from the clavicles in the picture. If you look really carefully, you'll see the clavicles are straight across. They're not V-shaped.
Straight across. Yeah, straight across.
See the long arms that she has.
Yeah,
and long torso.
Long torso, long neck.
Yeah. So it's all going on here with Orson, but you have to look closely and you have to really dig into it. But that's not the purpose of this video. But I just want to show these pictures to show that there is a lot more going on with Orson Welles than what they could imagine.
Right.
Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Joe. Okay, here's Orson Welles playing the Cardinal.
Playing a cardinal, huh?
Cardinal Wolsey in A Man for All Seasons. I mean, look at that. He looks tyrannical.
Yeah.
I mean, he's such a good actor. And anybody, if anybody has not seen A Man for All Seasons, that's a Shakespeare play as a movie, and it's great. Go and watch it. It's well worth it.
Okay.
Because you'll see Orson Welles in all his glory, and you'll get an understanding of the humanist plots that are in these Shakespearean plays.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the S. You can see the S.
Yeah, that's what I was fixated on just now. The S is like, wow, what is that?
Yeah, S for snake. S for serpent.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Joe. Okay.
Look at this.
Janus Films. This is the company that produced F for Fake.
Fitting.
Very fitting, because there's your picture of androgynous, the double-faced god, Janus.
Yeah. Man, can't make this up, huh?
You can't make it up. Janus Films. And I don't know whether Orson Welles had a stake in this company, whether it was his company, whether it was just a temporary company that he used to produce the film. I don't know. But that'll tell you all you need to know. There it is, all wrapped up in that image. Janus Films.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Here you go. Here's the poster, advertising poster for F for Fake. Now, when you look at that, that looks like a man. But when you look at the eyes, they just look feminine. They look menacing. They look menacing, but they look feminine at the same time. So it's bizarre how this all works. There he is. She is. They are. We are legend.
Yeah.
We are legion. We are legion, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of us in here.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Let's have a look at the next one, Joe. Okay, and here's a picture of Winston Churchill and his wife,
Tranny.
Winnie.
That's a tranny. That's a man.
Yes, of course it is. And look at Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill, I put this in here because Winston Churchill is one of the role models for Orson Welles.
Mm-hmm.
Winston Churchill, you see the hand motion he's doing there? He's making the clench symbol indicating that he's been castrated.
Really?
Yes. See that?
Oh, wow.
See the way he's holding his hands there?
Okay.
He's indicated that he's been. So Winston Churchill is a woman. I mean, look at the face.
Wow.
Look at the little eyes.
Wow. Yeah.
He's a woman. He's a cigar smoking woman. He is a role model for Orson Welles, or Orson Welles is a role model for Winston Churchill. I'm not sure which comes first.
There's just absolutely no neck. I mean,
no neck.
I mean, unless that's just the way the picture's making it look.
Right.
But
yeah. And look at her. She's got.
Yeah.
He's got his hands in his pockets. He's got a full neck. Yep. I mean, it's just look at the jaw on her.
Yeah.
Look at the long torso. Look at the long torso. Look at Winston Churchill's short torso and long legs.
Yeah. Wow. Uh-huh.
It's all there. And the reason I put this in is because Orson Welles admired Winston Churchill and spoke about him often. And of course, the reason is because they're all trannies. And they probably knew each other. They probably met each other when Orson was in England. I have no doubt that they knew each other and they met each other.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And he admired, he's a fellow tranny, fellow FTM, right?
Yeah. So
it's incredible.
Bizarre.
This has all been hidden from us. This truth has been hidden from us. And it changes history. Once you know that women have been controlling history, then you know.
Mm-hmm.
Then you know our whole history is upside down, and you need to throw it out and throw it in the trash bin. Yeah, is there any more after this one? I don't know if this is the last.
No, that was
That's
the
it.
last one. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay, you can stop sharing, Joe. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there we go. There's a whole range of pictures that shed a little bit of light on Orson, his family, and what's going on there as far as sexuality. It's amazing. Now, I just want to bring out 4 references here for people. I think some of these have been mentioned previously, but I'll mention them again. Video number 298 titled War of the Worlds. You mentioned that, Joe. Very important. Watch that if you want to know a little bit more about Orson. He's mentioned in there. Excuse me. And also video number 319 titled Spooks, which talks about the CIA and the Jesuit-run intelligence agencies of the world. That's also very important to watch. Please watch that. Orson Welles and Roger Hill, A Friendship in 3 Acts, is a hardback book that you can order on Amazon if you want to know more about Orson Welles and Roger Hill and their friendship. Apparently, they've transcribed telephone conversations that they had in the last 3 years of Orson's life. They recorded them and turned them into a 3-act play.
Mm-hmm.
And it reveals a lot of information about Roger Hill and Orson Welles and their relationship. Very, very important to understand the men, and what they were doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, another book is titled The Magic World of Orson Welles, which you can also buy on Amazon, by James Narramore, which also sheds a lot of light on Orson Welles and who he was. A lot of the books written about Orson Welles major in one area and don't focus on the real facts that you need to know. I don't know one book that outs Orson Welles as an FTM.
Yeah.
Not one. Okay, so just a few references there, those 4 references.
Okay. So what can we conclude about Orson Welles and the effect of his one life on the many?
All right, so just to summarize everything, I've got 8 points. Number 1, Orson Welles was born and raised as an only child who was sickly yet gifted beyond his years. Number 2, in pursuit of his creative vision, Orson maximized every opportunity that came his way to great effect. Number 3, Orson Welles' impact on the world was way out of proportion to the life of the man. That's important to understand. Number 4, the Jesuit Masonic hierarchy used Orson Welles to advance their Shakespearean humanist cultural program through the United Nations education curriculum. Now remember, he was doing these booklets way before 1945 when the United Nations was created. But after the United Nations was created and they brought in the United Nations education curriculum worldwide, Shakespeare was put in there, jammed in there as part of the course.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, Orson Welles' vision and work changed the way other artists thought about and perceived life, encouraging them to increase the level of wickedness in movies and art. The level of wickedness in movies went up, decade by decade by decade by decade, to the place where in the 90s and the 2000s, sex and violence was rampant in many, many movies. You did not see that in Orson Welles movies. Now, number 6, without him fully knowing it, Orson Welles imprinted humanist values through his life example and films onto the minds of the masses. Number 7, Orson Welles is a very powerful example of how the Jesuits use prominent celebrity people to achieve their goals for the New World Order beast system. And number 8, the end result of Orson Welles' 70 years of frenzied creative activity on Earth during the 20th century is his huge contribution to a God-hating world whose minds are blinded by humanist values.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big one, number 8.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
right.
Now, finally, what can we learn from this? Well, in Ecclesiastes 12, verses 11 to 14, we can read this. The words of the wise are as goads, and his nails fastened by the masters of assemblies, which are given from one shepherd. The words of the wise come from one shepherd. And who might that shepherd be? The Lord Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
He says,
Amen.
and further by these my son be admonished of making many books, there is no end. And much study is a weariness of the flesh. And then Solomon says in verse 13, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil.
It's good.
That's what we need to remind ourselves of every day. Every secret thing will be brought into judgment by God, and there is no escape from that except to obey God and live holy every minute of every day. And this is the opposite of what Orson Welles was doing. And that's the takeaway lesson. Orson Welles should be a lesson to us, not to do what he was doing, not to go down the path he was doing. And that includes consuming movies endlessly. Do not do this. Have your mind renewed and transformed by the word of God.
Yeah.
Not by Hollywood movies. So that's what I would say, Joe.
Yeah, verse 13 and 14, a great verses to memorize, scripture memorization on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The understanding that every work, God shall bring every work into judgment. Everything we do and say will be brought into judgment. Every secret thing that we think God doesn't see, whether it be good or whether it be evil, every secret thing. Now, if we do something in secret that is good for other people, God will bring that into judgment for our account, right? Not against us, for us.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Now, did Orson do any good? Yes. Yes, he did. He helped a lot of people in his life. He spent everything he got on other people, but it's to no avail because he'll be damned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is sad. So it doesn't matter how smart you are, how talented you are, it will not get you anywhere unless you're born again of the Spirit of God and by the water and by the Spirit of God, and you are walking with God in all holiness. Nothing else will avail you or help you when the moment to die arrives.
Yeah.
So with that, people, take this as an object lesson. Take Orson Welles as an object lesson and apply it to your lives, and walk with God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? And love your neighbor as yourself.
That's right. That's right. Amen, brother. Well, once again, it was great to be here with you in another video, and
likewise.
And look forward to doing it again. So just want to encourage everybody, keep fighting the good fight of faith. Don't grow weary in well-doing. Keep battling the beast, submitting to God, resisting the devil, and he will flee.
Yes.
Because the attacks will continue to increase. Encourage yourself in the Lord. When he gets lonely, a lot of times, do as King David did, and he encouraged himself in the Lord when everyone turned against him. So,
yes,
in Peter, Second Peter, he admonishes us to, don't grow weary because your brethren across the world are suffering the same things.
Yes.
Yep. So well done, brother. Great admonition
absolutely.
in this.
And I would just say, people, to encourage yourself in the Lord is to read the Word of God out loud.
Yeah. There you go.
Read it out loud.
Yeah.
And apply it to yourself. Make it personal.
That's right.
Always make the Word of God personal. Never think that it's about other people. The Word of God is meant for you personally, me personally.
Right.
All of us, right?
That's right. That's right.
Sorry, Joe. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, no, not at all. Okay, brother. Well, we'll talk soon. Yeah. and look
Yep.
forward to
Bless
it.
you. Bless you. And take good care of yourselves as we go forward, because things are afoot.
Sure are.
Certainly in the United States, especially after Mrs. Trump got back in.
Yeah.
Things are going to heat up. Evil is afoot. So be watching out for that. Be sober and alert at all times.
Yeah. All these patriot Trumpsters,
Yes.
fake Christian patriot Trumpsters are going to see real quick another side of Trump.
Yep, absolutely.
They should have saw it in the first go around when his first election, when he warped speed and brought in the vaccines and claimed to be the father of vaccines. So they didn't see it then. I
they
don't
thought
know.
he was a hero by doing that, right?
Exactly.
They saved us all from certain death.
Yeah.
And
God will.
Deadly virus, right? It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So they've chosen their own delusion. My goodness. Yeah. Okay, brother. God bless you. And
bless you, Joe.
Until next time, Lord willing.
Yes. All right. Amen.